Sports Radio WEEI, broadcasting live from Radio Row here in Phoenix, Arizona, site of Super Bowl 49 on Sunday, Patriots and the Seahawks. I have always found the sports science segments on ESPN fascinating, just as a general rule of thumb, and John Brenkus does those segments. Never did I think that it would be such a big deal, and that John would be breaking down air pressure in footballs and what makes air pressure. John joins us right now. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
So did you ever put any thought into air pressure in footballs before 10 days ago?
You know what? We actually have. We actually have done a bunch of experiments on the effect that weather has on a ball. You know, we took a ball and froze it. We've taken a ball and we've blown it. We've inflated it until it explodes. You know, we've frozen a ball in liquid nitrogen. I mean, we've done all kinds of things you can think about with a ball. So when this story broke, we're like, why is everybody freaking out about it? Because that's such a minute difference. It's so tiny, and so we had to break out the math on it. And so we're breaking out the math on, look, I don't know what happened to the ball. It had 2 pounds per square inch less. Assuming their gauge is right that they're looking at telling them what it's even inflated to. Let's just assume that. So assuming that that's right, if the math is ball that travels 20 yards, leaving a quarterback's hand at 50 miles an hour, a ball that has 2 pounds per square inch less is going to arrive 0.003 of a second later, which means a defender can cover an extra inch during that pattern. Now, in that way, you can say, well, it's a disadvantage. When you look at people say, well, it's softer, it's squishy, you can definitely grip it better. You can only compress the ball about an extra 1 millimeter with it being 2 pounds per square inch less. So if you can really genuinely tell the difference between that millimeter, it's so minute. When people say, well, a quarterback can get a better grip on the ball, he can squeeze it better. Well, take it to the extreme. Is a Nerf football easier and more accurate to throw than an NFL football? You're talking about the principle of dealing with children, right? When children's hands are really small, you want something soft and squishy. When your hands are big and you're an elite NFL player or quarterback, you don't want the ball any softer than it needs to be. So to me, this is all much ado about nothing. The math supports. There are two things that I know. The natural causes did not cause the ball to be 2 pounds lighter, right? So something happened. I don't know if somebody deflated it. I don't know if they inflated it wrong, but it wasn't from the change in temperature or the rain or anything like that. That I know. I also know that it provided no advantage. So I find it hard to believe that the Patriots were scheming to do this to give themselves an advantage, because I don't think there really is any advantage. Maybe psychologically, but not from a physics aspect.
I'll tell you right now, you got a bed and a meal at Thornton's house from this day forward.
Absolutely. You know what? Thank goodness I have you, because I didn't pay attention in physics class. I barely squeak by. Now you support the argument I'm trying to make.
Well, I got a couple things. One, along those lines, when did you become interested in this stuff? What age? Was it 3 years old? It must have been very
Science
young.
is my passion. It's my lifelong passion.
And it's just always been that. Always been that way.
Ever since I
How
was
did it manifest when you were a kid? What would?
So I'm the kid that was just doing science projects, not because I was an assignment, but just because I wanted to, right? So I'm always trying to push the envelope, and I'm the kid with grasshoppers and volcanoes and whatever. So making that stuff, as I was growing into it, got really into quantum physics and theory of relativity. Not many people have sat down and actually read the theory of relativity and tried to decode it and figure out and what everyone's talking about. That's just what I read and what my passion is. It really manifested itself in the form of sports science, because I was a rhetoric major at the University of Virginia. The theory of the argument is what I specialize in. I'm using science to try to convince you of something that I think is correct. So we've now done over 1,000 sports science segments. We're in season 8. And on the worldwide leader in sports, on a giant platform, we're incredibly grateful that people are clearly responding to it, that people like to learn stuff, and I really want to make arguments that I feel are compelling using science to back it up.
Well, could you take some of those segments and take them to the set of Countdown and say, hey, Ray Lewis, could you watch this? Chris Carter. Some of the guys on the network are not watching it clearly because they have all kinds of ideas about what happened.
Yeah, Ray has become a good friend. Ray was on the show in season 2, and we had Ray running through a door against a police battering ram. We were like the battering ram against the Ray Lewis bull rush. So
Ray has some experience with that.
Exactly. So Ray became a fast friend, good friends with him. A lot of what's interesting is that a lot of the news that's out there right now is because people are just interested and fascinated, and it seems criminal, and someone's now wearing a black hat and they cheated. It's like an easy thing to it's like easy for people to, they cheated and that's awful and therefore it was an advantage. My point is, there are way more and I think Bill Belichick also did an incredible disservice to their own argument. He should have just stuck to, I don't have any idea. Period. He then tried to go into we conducted some scientific experiments because the science does not support that there was a natural explanation from it. They should have just stuck to, I don't know. With all that being said, I still believe, I don't think anybody really knows exactly how it happened. I don't think a guy was in a bathroom pinning it with a needle. He may have, but I can't imagine the Patriots are like, we need that to win. It's insane. It would be an uncontrollable thing to sustain. That's not the way to cheat. If you're going to cheat, do something that's worth it. That's not worth it. So I cannot imagine it was a calculated orchestration.
Okay, so if irrefutably, scientifically, factually, that there's no advantage to having a ball that's underinflated, why is the country making such a big stink about this?
Because I think people misunderstand what the real difference is. I think everybody's thinking, a soft, squishy football like my kid plays in Pee Wee, or a big hard one that I feel in the NFL. It's such a minute, they don't understand it's such a minute difference. If you were to, give everybody in the country, here are the two balls and here's the math behind it, I think they would lose interest really quickly. But the fact is people just have the wrong thing in their minds as to what it actually means.
John Brenkus is with us, sports science guy from ESPN. You come at this from a scientific perspective. My son comes to this from a statistical perspective with his PhD in stats from Yale. And he said similar things to what you said, and what he pointed out to me on the phone is that what's happened is people are using 2 pounds and thinking of 2 pounds,
right,
and they're not using 2 pounds per square inch,
right,
which is not even the same.
It's the difference of the weight of a dollar bill. So close your eyes, put a dollar bill in your hand. That's what we're arguing about. It's actually less. So it's lighter than a dollar bill in weight. I mean, it's so minute. It's almost indiscernible. And here to me is the great, I don't think this has made the rounds quite yet, but the great statistics that are now going to start coming out are, wait a minute, the Patriots are the only team this year that did not have a running back fumble the ball. So everybody in their mind is saying, it's squishy and they're able to tuck it, and that must be why, because these balls are deflated. That's why. Everyone's forgetting. Doesn't Belichick bench players faster than any coach ever? If you fumble, you don't play. That's how you weed out fumbles.
No, you've hit the nail on the head, and Michael also pointed out, because I saw the statistical argument about the fumbling thing. Look at all the other teams that are really good. They probably don't fumble either. That's why they're really good.
That's why you win, is because you don't fumble. And when they're talking about, 2 pounds per square inch is going to make a big difference on how a running back holds the ball because it's softer. We're not talking about the difference between experiencing 200 pounds of force from a defender and 201 pounds of force. We're talking about experiencing 2,000 pounds of force. I don't care if you're holding a Nerf football. You're not able to hold on to it if you're not holding on to it properly. It's just the numbers are so big when people are talking about the concussion argument. They're like, the gear could be much better. Dude, if we half the forces that are out there, it's still too high. There's nothing you can do about it. It is what it is. It's too big.
Did you identify a temperature at which a football will lose its air pressure?
Now, the answer to that argument, humidity it plays a big part of that as well. So, the rain plays a big part of it. The exact formula on it, it's going to vary stadium to stadium, condition to condition. One way to put that we like to say this is the rain from a football adds about half an ounce of weight just by being wet, right? Not soaked, but just wet. Half an ounce. That's 10 times more than the weight of 2 pounds per square inch. 10 times more. So they're trying to get down to where is the weight of the football? And I love to point this out, that I don't think people have been harping on this enough. People are saying, the NFL is about integrity and the game and precision, and there are rules. What's their rule? Between 12.5 and 13.5. That's an 8% variance. I mean, that's not That's not like, well, just a skosh over. I'm like, 8%? That's a lot. That's not a tiny bit of error. That's larger than any margin of error in any poll you're going to see. Right? You generally see a 2 to 3% margin of error on a poll. They're allowing 8% just off the bat. So I'm like, look, and I don't know how 12.5 got picked. I mean, it should be the ball. It should just be the league says we are bringing the footballs. You're allowed to examine them to make sure we didn't tamper with them. But we're all playing with the same ball. We're going to pump it up to 12.5. That's it.
Well, my final question for you is: at what level did you get to where you saw the football explode? You said you made footballs explode. What was that PSI?
God, it was pretty high. I honestly cannot remember because we put it. It's with the air cannon and the generator where we're just putting it in. I cannot remember where it actually exploded.
Was it recognizable still, or was it?
No. It actually busts out of its seam first, so it'll actually break the stitching first and kind of hemorrhage, and then once it hemorrhages, the leather ends up piercing.
Do you have time for another question
Sure.
about a different issue? A few years ago, you did a thing about the play where Luke Kuechly at the end of the game, basically bear hugged Rob Gronkowski in the end zone. The league said that was an uncatchable ball. Now, you guys proved that it was very catchable.
Very catchable.
Okay, but that one came down off the internet, which fed my conspiracy theories that the NFL is behind this.
Maybe it was the ending.
Yeah.
So the ending had something to do with it.
So that play, absolutely catchable. Tom Brady was 100% correct in the way that he described it in throwing out his expletives. He was correct. That ball was catchable. There should have been a flag on that play. What's interesting is there are a lot of conspiracy theories that circle around the internet when we have to take a segment down. Like this Deflategate segment, we ended up taking down just like we did the Gronk segment because it has NFL footage in it, and we're only allowed to keep it up there for 48 hours. Most segments come and go and people don't notice, but when it's a controversial play, they're like, oh my God, it's a conspiracy. You took it down because of, I don't know, some big conspiracy theory. The truth is it has footage restrictions in it. So when the Deflategate segment we reposted, now it only has stills. It doesn't have the actual footage in it.
John, you just kicked the crap out of Bill Nye the Science Guy. I'm just saying. It's not even close.
Although if they got to him, they compromised him on this conspiracy thing. No,
right.
John, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, guys.
John Brenkus,
so
ESPN
cool.
Science Guy, joining us here and giving some very complete explanations.
And if my son is listening, start paying attention in science class. Do your homework because this guy made science really, really cool just now.
He's been passionate about it his entire life, though.
He blinded me with science.
In Massachusetts.